Hello, this is Blue Star, Defender of Equestria, and this is my AfterThoughts review to Non-Compete Clause. After the way that Applejack and Rainbow Dash behaved this episode, I think a non-compete clause would actually be a great idea, because this episode ends in total disaster. But fortunately, nobody died and the kids actually learned about teamwork, so yay! Yeah, I think if there's one word that describes this episode, it's salvage. Even though Rainbow Dash and Applejack completely fail at being teachers, we actually salvage a lesson and everything, so it was okay. No one drowned, no one got eaten, so it was okay, but just barely. I can't help but think, yeah, if these were real teachers with real students, they'd be lucky to keep their jobs, much less, get the teacher of the month. Kind of reminds me in Battlefield Bad Company 1. Basically, the long story short is the characters go rogue and they've been captured by the US Army, and they're like, we were hoping for some R&R. And then the lady over the radio says, forget that, you guys are facing court-martial. Which is kind of what Applejack and Rainbow Dash were facing it. And it's kind of disappointing, and in that moment, they're still worrying about the stupid teacher of the month thing. It's like, don't you care that the headmaster is basically here to take over because you messed up? That's not a good sign. This episode almost ended in disaster. They endangered the very lives of their students, which is obviously a bad thing. In some ways, I'm making a bigger deal about this than it really is, but in the real world, if these were your kids, how would you feel? Would you trust those teachers to take your kids on a field trip and possibly get in trouble again? Because that really is the thing that's disappointing about this episode, is that Applejack and Rainbow Dash completely and utterly fail to teach teamwork, and they don't even realize it. In some ways, I wonder, were there actually any moments where they were actually trying to teach teamwork? I mean, I think there were from time to time, but it's like, yeah, they definitely, even ignoring all the fighting and the arguing and the pointlessly agreeing with each other, that I don't think they really were actually teaching teamwork all that well. But again, there is something to be said for, basically learning things the wrong way. It's like, this is how not to do teamwork, and, well, if that was their plan to begin with, they succeeded massively, because this is absolutely not how to do teamwork. Because, yeah, first they're just arguing with each other, which obviously doesn't accomplish anything, and then they're just pointlessly agreeing with each other, and both of these basically lead to not fixing the problem. There's no decisions being made, because teamwork isn't about, agreeing with people or fighting with people. It's about working together to come up with the best solution. Teamwork is about working together to accomplish a goal or a task, and they completely and utterly fail at that. It was kind of interesting to see, the two sides, first the arguing, then just the pointlessly agreeing, but yeah, this episode got tiresome really fast. One of my favorite lines from my reaction video was like, this is getting tiresome already. Knowing these two, it's not going to get any better anytime soon. Pull up a chair, and I hope you enjoy watching Applejack and Rainbow Dash fight and argue and stuff, because, well, that's pretty much what's going to happen for the rest of this episode, which pretty much was the case. I'm so disappointed in the main six during this episode. It's like, you almost got them killed. What would you say to Twilight? It's like, Twilight, we lost the kids. And unfortunately, I never thought is that it's a good thing it's a children's show, because everybody was wearing their life jackets because they definitely needed one. Oh, poor kids. But I must admit, I love Silver's stream. She could be excited about anything, tripping over in a field or floating helplessly down a river. So, in some ways, not necessarily a bad attitude to have, but yeah, a lot of the other characters were not enjoying themselves. And poor Yoda, it's like she nearly drowned, poor girl. It's like, I have to say, that was a pretty unusual circumstance, but I could sort of see it happening, but yeah. I mean, but it was an interesting thought that she is afraid of water, but it kind of makes sense to me a little bit, because they're yaks that live in Yakistan, which I think was pretty much mountains, so they've probably never seen, like, a lake or river or something like this before, so they don't know how to swim, so it's not a big surprise that the non-swimmer is afraid of water, so, and unfortunately, this trip she had every reason to be. It's kind of another sub-point of the, remember, kids, don't go boating with the main six without one of these, because, most likely you'll be needing it, because so far there hasn't been a boating episode that's worked out well for the boat or for the main six. Never rent a boat to the main six. The good news is you'll get it back. The bad news is you'll get it back in pieces. There were some nice kind of character moments, and I did like Ocellus. It's like, oh my gosh, he's a giant flying piranha. But that was a pretty cool design, and I also liked her as a sea pony. Wait a minute, Flying piranhas? Oh, no, that's just scary. Keep them away from me. I guess the question with this episode, is it a bad episode? Well, I guess that depends on how you want to define a bad episode. I've always kind of been tempted to do a video on what makes or doesn't make a good episode, because that's really open for interpretation. But in MLP's case, I think a good episode is one that's entertaining and is accomplishing whatever it's trying to do, which is usually to teach a lesson of some sort. So I guess you could say it is a bad episode because it gets tiresome very quickly. And the lesson is kind of difficult. They salvage this lesson from this disaster at the end of this episode. Again, you know, you could look at Applejack and Rainbow Dash and say, oh look, this is exactly how not to do teamwork. And it's in some ways painfully obvious why this is not how to do teamwork, because they're not working together at all. So, yeah, I would say this is not a great episode. There's some things that are salvageable from this episode, but it's difficult and problematic, so yeah, I would definitely go into the not good, bad category, but either way, I don't really like this episode. Even when I was watching this again for my afterthought review, I was like half paying attention to it, because like, oh, it's just Rainbow Dash and Applejack arguing some more, or pointlessly agreeing with each other. It's like, I'm bored. Is the episode over yet? But I must admit, that was in some ways kind of fun watching the students being like, are they supposed to be teaching us about teamwork? Because it sort of seems like they need to learn about teamwork. I forgot the dragon's name again, but this isn't awkward at all. That was a great line. I like that. Definitely describes that situation with the poor kids all too well. But I'm glad that in the end the students did learn something, even if it wasn't necessarily from the teachers and stuff. So, so overall, I'm not really a fan of this episode. I mean, it wasn't entirely bad, but it wasn't entirely good either, so it's not great. It doesn't go on my list of episodes I'm gonna actively go and watch and enjoy and be like, yay, I get to watch this episode. I'm gonna be like, oh, do I have to watch this episode? So overall, this episode was not great. It wasn't necessarily bad, but I didn't really like it all that much. But hopefully we will be seeing more teacher-student episodes in the future, because I definitely want to see more of these characters, because I think it's just so nice. They definitely have a lot of interesting personalities, and they're definitely so much that they and the main six can learn and everything. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more, so yes! So that is the end of my afterthought review of Non-Compete Clause. This is Blue Star. Stay strong and pony on. Blue Star out.